Welcome everybody to the next edition of In the Frame. I'm delighted to be joined by Tom Davenport. He's co-founder, co-CEO of Alvius, and delighted to have Tom with us. And I'm just going to jump straight into this, Tom. Tell us about Tom Davenport, just an idea of your career and, how you got to where you are now.
Good morning. Thank you very much indeed for having me. Currently, as you mentioned, and indeed for the last 4 years, I am running this business called Alvius, along with my co-founder Andrew, and we are a temp software company. And we're in, it feels like sort of part way through a very exciting growth journey with that business, and growth both as a company, but also as individuals, of course, learning about the market and how things work in this extraordinary UK outsourcing sector. Before that, I ran another business, also with Andrew. So we're a sort of second time round entrepreneurial duo, double act. And before that, I worked in finance in the city for a few years, where I learned a few things and that have been fairly helpful, and learned a lot of things that haven't been at all helpful. In fact, I've had to unlearn them subsequently. So there, I hope that's a vaguely meaningful, brief summary.
Did your interests always sit in tech with Andrew?
Well, it's, I should be very specific. Andrew runs our technology and product side of the business. So
right.
When we get a lot of praise for how, and I feel I can be open about this without being too arrogant or self-praising, the praise and adulation we get for the quality of our software and for the ease of use and the simplicity of the interface, etc. That really comes from Andrew, because his starting point with software is actually design. His sort of his passion is software design, and that developed into the back end from there. So that's how we kind of deal with that part of the business. I guess I've always been interested in technology to some extent, but not really, actually. No, I'm more interested in business. I'm more interested in setting stuff up, making things work, having an impact. That's what really excites me, and technology is a great vehicle for that these days.
Yeah. So where did you see the gap for Alvius? How did Alvius even come about?
Well, in short, we didn't.
Right. Okay.
There wasn't any moment when we thought, goodness me, the UK recruitment outsourcing sector needs a mid-tier, well-designed modern VMS that can integrate with talent pooling capability. we did not. I say that sentence, but we never had that thought.
It's grown to be that, though.
No, what happened was that the other business that we were running was changed its name subsequently, but it was originally called talentpool.com, and in fact we now own the domain talentpool.com and use it quite a lot. Because we had that domain, we were approached when, you may remember, MStar 3 came out.
Yep.
We had no idea what a framework was. We had no idea what public procurement really involved or meant, what tendering, what an RFP was beyond what we'd seen in the private sector. But that framework emerged, and we were contacted about it, and that was because we had that domain, and we had that we had some software in another sector that was analogous to what we now do in the outsourcing and public sector space.
Yeah.
And that was therefore all about talent pooling. And we went for that framework position, and that led to us learning about the sector and discovering this thing called a VMS.
Yep.
And seeing that there were some great ones and also some really average ones, and identifying that there was this niche, this area for the kind of 0 to 50 million spend bracket, which wasn't particularly well served. And we felt there was an opportunity to go after that, particularly with a modern bit of bit of kit that was easily integrated into third-party systems, and straightforward to use, and that led us to where we are now.
And I guess because neither you nor Andrew had that recruitment outsourcing background, maybe that's some of the secret sauce in this, that you came at it without those preconceived ideas, hence the design of it being much more intuitive and much more simplistic, because you were designing it really with the outcomes in mind, rather than the entire process, which sometimes in recruitment terms bogs everyone down somewhat.
I think that is definitely true. Everything's been set up from first principles. What should this logically look like before we get into the details of how the minutiae of how the sector works. I mean, I worth also saying that we have definitely been held back in some respects by the fact that we are outsiders or were outsiders. It's taken us a long time to understand how everything works. It's taken us a long time to build a network and presence in the market that means that I can call people up now, to ask them questions when I don't understand something, whereas a few years ago that just wasn't the case. So yes, that's a strength of the approach, but I'm not going to claim that's a unique or particularly special advantage, because, as I say, it would also have been good to have had some sector knowledge.
Well, I think there's pros and cons in that, but what's the Alvius mission? What do you want to be when you grow up?
We fundamentally it's about making really, really outstanding quality software.
Right.
If you boil things right down, we've got all sorts of objectives about marrying, as you might call a tactical objective, is marrying the VMS and the TPS, so vendor management and talent pooling functionality, into one. That's our kind of product objective.
Yeah.
And ensuring that the benefits of direct sourcing are twinned with a really well run supply chain, all within a wrapped up in a neatly set up and user friendly system.
Yeah.
Those are kind of tactical objectives, but higher than that, what we are doing is we are just bringing really high quality software, which is modern, intuitive, and interoperable, into a sector which has some of that, but has a lot that really isn't that great.
Right.
And that at a very high level, that's what we're doing.
Brilliant. So really raising the bar.
Yeah.
In that. Yeah. Okay. And do you have an ideal client in Alvius?
Yes, although we have a lot of customers that are wonderful and we love, of course, that deviate from this ideal. Yeah, I mean, the ideal is a forward-looking, agile, flexible, ambitious MSP RPO, looking to do the core work really well, VMS, as well as run exciting stuff like, for instance, direct sourcing for their customers.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you partner fundamentally with the outsource members to deliver your services. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
And it's incredible, because really Alvius, like I've been in the sector, as you know, quite a long time, and Alvius is still quite new, but you've become quite well known in a very short space of time, Tom, because how long has Alvius been going now?
Well, we won our framework position, which created the journey that led to Alvius in 2019.
Yeah, so it's no time at all, really.
No, deployed our first software in 2020, and then here we are now. So yes, I would say the last 12-18 months has seen a significant acceleration in our presence in the market. Those small anecdotal things that when you say hello to someone, you say your name or the company's name, there's a flicker of recognition versus blank response. Those small moments make a difference.
Yeah, I think APSCo OutSource had something to do with that too.
And I was literally about to say, of course, I think that it aligns closely with the time that we've been members of the greatest trade body in the UK.
It's very kind. I also think as well, you know, you've got involved in things that don't necessarily sit in Alvius, but something that Andrew and yourself are very interested in, and you've run really successful webinars for us on AI. Just generally, you know, it's something obviously that's built into the tools, but you know, pulling it out and saying, look, this is how people can be using these things every day in their everyday lives, and those have been, you know, really well received by all our members and some of, you know, our trusted partners too. So those sorts of things, you know, really support people getting to know who Alvius are, but more importantly, you and Andrew as well as individuals. So what do you think's next? I'll take those two things separately. What's next for Tom, and what's next for Alvius? Or are they so closely linked there's not one without the other?
On any meaningful time horizon, they're the same thing, professionally speaking. Yeah. I won't bore you with my ambitions to score my second ever century playing cricket for my local team. That's very much top of mind for me.
Yes, that's good.
But at a professional level, they are for any meaningful say time horizon, they are one and the same, and it's fundamentally about growth. And I hope it's going to be a case of the direct sourcing, talent pooling movement continuing to gain traction and have an effect in the UK and beyond.
Yeah.
And us both riding and being a part of the cause of that wave.
Yeah.
And you know, us moving to a point where it's not really a new movement anymore. It's a given that direct sourcing will be part of any good, well-run outsourcing program. An element, you know, 5, 10, 15% of total volumes, that kind of thing. It's our sort of position. I said this before, that direct sourcing is not the future, and then pause, it is a part of the future, and that's a really important thing. And we just want to be a key player, if not the key player, in making that happen.
And I know we've spoke before you've attended and sat on panels with us at the LinkedIn leadership and innovation events that we run.
Yes.
And we've talked a lot about skills first, and you know how important, and I see direct sourcing and a skills first approach is kind of hand in hand. You need, you know, we've got to widen the talent pool in order to have a good talent pool to source from. A significant way of widening the talent pool is a skills first approach. And is that something that you envisage kind of introducing within the platform, or is that something already you can do in the Alvius tech?
Well, I think it's sort of a given, in that one of the core bits of technology at the heart of everything of our system is our matching engine, and that is a, you know, some code which basically determines who on the platform should see what jobs, and indeed what individuals should be seen by you know, the admin users of the platform on the client side. And matching can be, as we all know, extremely straightforward. You know, I need someone who has qualification 317. Do they or do they not have qualification 317? But equally, you can have much more nuanced matching based on, guess what, skills and so on. Now, the way that we've set this up is that we have retained a tag-based matching system. So, you know, the person needs compassion, for example. What we're looking for is compassion. And so the tag on the job side, compassion, can be matched with the tag on the candidate side, compassion. That's pretty basic, and you might think pretty prone to missing people and making some errors. Where it gets interesting, and this is where we've introduced the AI, is not in the tag definition or in the tag selection layer, but in the tag creation layer. So reading someone's profile in their CV, but also other elements in its entirety, and realizing that pulling out of that, though the word compassion is not used once, actually compassion is an appropriate tag to have for that individual, and the same on the job side.
Right.
So that's one area that we're using AI, and if our clients want to operate on that basis, then we can use what is ostensibly at the front end quite a sort of straightforward one-for-one matching process that is itself actually driven by a much more complex, much more sophisticated bit of, well, not even logic. It's beyond logic.
Yeah.
And that kind of approach is central to everything we do. We try and make the front end comprehensible and straightforward, in the knowledge that what happens behind the scenes is often quite complex.
Right. Okay. And I just think in doing that, I think you're bringing the best of what you can together in order to have the best possible outcomes. Now, just sort of changing tack slightly, we've heard throughout the recruitment world and the outsourcing sector too, that this year's been a particularly challenging year so far. It was kind of like a hangover from last year, although it's been very busy from the standpoint of tenders and lots of bids out there. Every member I speak to seems to have an abundance of bids that they've been bidding on this year. So we're predicting a lot of movement later this year. And actually, with some of the feed coming out of the Bank of England and some of the economic folk that are giving us some kind of foresight into early next year, seeing the market significantly start to pick up again. Is that your general, in terms of Alvius and what you've seen this year? Does that mirror with how you've seen business? Has it been, a tougher year?
Yeah. So obviously we're not at the front end of the sort of recruitment.
No.
As in the ratio, the balance of supply and demand. We're not at the front end of that, although of course we see the numbers coming through.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt that the last couple of years, well, A, has been weird in terms of supply demand flipping, and B, there's been like a complete dearth of tenders for ages, and it's everyone's reasonably asking where the hell are they? I mean, it's got to happen at some point. So we definitely see the tender variation over time.
Yeah,
sure, because we're supporting the businesses that are bidding on them, and we get asked for material. So we absolutely see that. Thankfully, we tend to not be hit with the bulk of the RFP writing. We just submit our little bit. But there's been an unquestionable uptick in requests that we've received in the last, since March or something.
Yes.
That kind of thing, for diagrams and imagery and so on, which is clearly going into towards tenders. But yeah, the market, of course, is now changed dramatically in that the job seeker has nothing like the authority they used to have. 12 months ago or even more, which is if you're hiring, it's great. Obviously, it's probably not a great thing for the growth of skills-based hiring, because the mandate, the need to find alternative approaches to dig people out is reduced, because people are easier to find. It's very good for direct sourcing. Because you put one job on your talent pooling system, and you will receive, in general, a reasonable number of typically high quality applications that come through the platform, that mean that you have a greater chance of filling the role directly rather than through the supply chain. So I suspect this is the market we've been waiting for over the next. It won't last, because it never does. It never lasts for like 9 months, but now till the middle of next year maybe is the market that's going to allow direct sourcing to nudge up, and then it will flip back again. Yeah,
and once you're knee deep in our beautiful sector, you'll realise everything in recruitment is a cycle, and we just cycle through. But there's certain things that disrupt that and impact that, and we've seen a number of those things in the last few years, I would say. And fundamentally, the recruitment market is undergoing significant changes that I certainly haven't seen in the last 30 years. So I do think there is a massive shift happening in the sector overall, which is for the good overall. And we're definitely starting to see that. So I guess all it leaves me to say is thank you so much, Tom, for sharing, a little backstory of Tom and Alvius and what you're doing. We're delighted to have you as one of our trusted partners. And if any of our members want to get in touch with Tom, we can obviously make that happen as soon as possible. Thanks again. And I wish you all the best in getting that next 100. Very important.
It will be years. It will be years in the making, but it will happen.
It will. Just like England getting the Ashes back, it will happen.
Sure. It will happen. Yeah.
All right, lovely to see you, Tom. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mel.
Bye-bye.
Bye.